how to picture Facebook ads and how you want to imagine them and think about them. I'm not going to go through going into the actual business manager because it's all not very technical, but it's not the point I'm trying to make in this video. I want you to understand how to see, pretty much, right? And before beginning this video, this way of teaching it, I got from Charlie Morgan, and he taught it in such a way that I had to teach it to my clients in this way. It's the best way to picture it. Anyway, so you want to imagine your Facebook ads as an algorithm, right? An algorithm in an environment. So let's say we have our algorithm, right? This algorithm sets the conditions for survival, right? So Facebook's algorithm sets the conditions for the ads survival, right? So we've got all of our ads, and these ads can be viewed as like organisms, right? And the algorithm is the environment in which the organisms live in, right? So you want to imagine your ads like organisms in an environment. And what nature does to organisms is it tests them, which is exactly what Facebook's algorithm does to its ads. It tests them as it sets the conditions for survival and tests them against these conditions, right? So in order for your ads not to be killed, attacked, and not survive in this environment, they need to meet the conditions for survival in the environment, like the white rabbit and the black rabbit, right? The black rabbit will camouflage in the shadows of the trees, while the white rabbit will be caught by the eagle and die. And that is exactly 100% accurate of how ads test the algorithm, right? So some ads will die and not meet the conditions for survival, and some ads will live and reproduce, right? So you want to get as many of these organisms to survive in your environment to give you the most amount of chances to reproduce, right? You want to be like the bluefin tuna that lays over 1 million eggs per year, right? Hoping that just a few survive, right? So you just want heaps of these eggs because you really just want one or two to perform and reproduce, right? This is the same for ads. We want to create as many as possible that make sense with the budget that we have at our disposal to find an ad that will withstand and thrive in these conditions. The conditions of Facebook's algorithm, right? Then use the elements from these thriving ads to duplicate and reproduce its success until we have this like mega hybrid that just like dominates all, right? Like we want to, I'll display it on the screen in a second, but we want to essentially make all of these ads, different ads, test all of these different variables, and then take elements from the winning ad and the other winning ad and tie them together. I'll show you how this works in a second, right? Anyway, that's the mental model. We really want to tie in elements of natural selection when talking about ads, because it helps people understand how to view Facebook's algorithm as an all-encompassing power in which our ads just live in, right? And like they kind of rent land, that they're renting land from Facebook, who is the landlord. And if you don't follow the landlord's rules, you perform poorly and you get evicted, right? So now getting into it, right? You have like one campaign, right? One campaign. Or maybe you have two, right? And since I'm in the gym niche, what we tend to do is separate the campaigns. What we tend to do, let me just write C for campaign. What we tend to do is, let me do it down there. So C for campaigns, right? What we tend to do at our campaign level is separate our campaigns into genders, men and women. And obviously, some gyms are tailored to different genders, right? Like most Pilates gyms, they target more women, while most bodybuilding gyms, they target more men. I'm not trying to be sexist, it's just the way it is, right? So, obviously, in some campaigns, it's more profitable to only target one gender, and it's more suitable sometimes for gyms in a specific demographic or whatever it is to target one gender, right? So these are our campaign levels. And what we want to do is separate into the minimum so we know which one to target, right? And then you have your campaign, your ad set, and your ads. So you have campaign, mind my tragic handwriting on the keyboard, right? Campaign, that's it. And ads, right? So we kind of have the big one, the plus. Then we kind of have like, we have the plus plus, the plus. No, we have the plus plus plus, the plus, and the plus, right? Triple plus, double plus, plus. And this is kind of say, if you've ever like seen those, they're like dolls, and you take the head off, and then it's a smaller doll underneath, and then take the head off, smaller doll underneath, take that off, smaller doll underneath. It's kind of like those little cups. I don't know what they're called. Pretty much what I'm trying to explain this, isn't it? The campaign is the big one, and then under the campaign you have ad sets, and under ad sets you have the ads, right? And so you're usually looking for like 1 to 2. You usually have 2. We usually have 3, and the third one's a retargeting campaign. But I'll get to that when you're onboarded and we've sorted out some Facebook ads. And usually have like 5 ad sets and then 4 to 5 ads. It all depends on the budget, right? Like we're not going to have 10 ad sets if we only have $500 to work with, right? So you need to be made aware that one of the biggest limiting factors is the drum roll, please, the budget, right? How much ad spend we actually have to play around with and test a bunch of variables. So the budget is the biggest limiting factor on how your ads will survive, right? If we have a little budget and we try to test 10 different ad sets, we're going to test them poorly, right? We're not going to have a big enough sample space to properly test because averages become apparent in large sample spaces, right? Like you can't say you have a conversion rate of 50% when you've only had 2 leads, right? You've only converted 1. When, let's say you tested 100 and you only got 1, well, then your conversion rate is quite different, right? So the bigger the budget, the bigger the sample space, the better the averages will be, right? Because so the bigger the budget, the bigger the sample space, the more amount of eyes I'll be able to view, the more amount of times that our ads will be able to be tested in the environment of the algorithm, right? The more accurate our averages will be, and the better we'll be able to adjust and refine our campaigns to mirror the feedback that we get from the ads, right? So like usually a good ad spend is around 1,000, right? I wouldn't recommend if you're doing 5 or more ad sets. I would not recommend going below 1,000, right? 750 is okay. 500, you're gonna have to take these numbers down a bit, right? Because as I said before, you're not going to be able to test your variables effectively, right? You're going to be testing each one slightly, and then your averages are going to be kind of skewed because you've got a small sample space, and they might not show you the true values, the true averages, right? Because you're more prone to anomalies, right? And outliers skewing the data. So yeah, you simply can't just shuffle through enough variables with such a small budget, which is why it's imperative to have at least 750 or more. But yeah, if you don't really have 750 to work with, ads probably isn't your main concern of the business right now, if you know what I mean. So what we do at the campaign level is pick the gender, and gym niche is appropriate because, as I said before, most gyms are tailored to one specific gender, apart from like commercial gyms. Commercial gyms are usually pretty unisex and have all demographics, from young women to old women to young men to old men, right? And their needs are different, right? Which is because we know the demographics and needs are different. That's when we go into the ad sets and we use different copy. All right. So let me just plan this out. So campaign 1, let's say it's men, right? So we have one campaign, and then we will have a bunch of different ad sets. It's going to be our campaign level. Camp. Right? And this is here at ad set level. I really should invest in a mouse, right? In our ad set level, this is where we test our different copy, right? So we'll have different set of copy here, 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 different set of copy here to shuffle through. And here we have the ad level, right? Let me just bring this down a bit. Okay, so now I've drawn this all out, and we can see is we have our campaign level, and then we have our ad set level here, and then we have our ad level. What this allows us to do is to test the 3 main factors of successful Facebook ads, all right? Which is the copy, the creative, and the targeting. At the campaign level, we will address the targeting. At the ad set level, we will address the copy, and then at the ad level, we'll test our creatives, right? So if you've got $1,000 per month, what it essentially allows you to do is apply $200 to each ad set, right? And then you can test 5 different pieces of copy with $200. Now, in Facebook ads, where a lot of agencies go wrong is they turn on campaign optimization, which pretty much Facebook chooses which ad they think is going to do good, and they bias all the money towards one ad set, right? And you're probably thinking right now, oh, that's probably good because then we'll convert more. No. Facebook has specific biases that aren't apparent to us, right? So, as I was saying before, your averages will be skewed, right? So, if an entity has one bias towards one, has biases, right? The copy they like will be biased. The creatives they like will be biased. Pretty much, you don't want to turn on campaign optimization because in order to test true the true winning ad. That ad spend must be delegated evenly so they all have the same sample space, which means they've all been tested evenly, right? And then we can see the true averages, and then we can create our mega hybrids, which I was talking about, right? So here we might have different copy here, different copy here, different copy here, different copy here, different copy here. When I say different copy, I do not mean different offer. We will still have the same offer, but the copy will be slightly different, right? And this is where we can test different wording and how the demographic responds to different words and such stuff, right? And then at our ad level, we can choose a different creative, right? So let's say we have 4 images. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Essentially, in a campaign, we've got 5 different copies and 4 different ad creatives, right? Which essentially means we have 20 ads, right? Now we'll ask clients to send us 4 images. It might be a young man working out, a young lady working out, an old lady working out, and an old man working out. For Pilates gym, might be like different exercises, or depends on the campaign and who we're targeting and whatnot, right? But what we want to do is test 4 different images. And what we do, we have 4 different images and 5 different pieces of copy. So 4 times 5, simple math, is 20. So essentially, we have 20 different ads, right? 20 different opportunities to test our ads against Facebook's algorithm. We have 20 different organisms, right? Which can potentially survive in Facebook's environment. And as I was saying before, the goal isn't just to survive. We want to reproduce, like in an environment. So let's say, where is my pen? Here we are. Let's say copy 1, image 1 performed well, and copy 4, image 4. That should be image 3, right? Copy 4, image 3 performed well. What we then do is tie these in together, right? And try and make a mega hybrid. And this is where we really start to see results. See, a lot of agencies, they just leave it like this, and then they just run this ad, and then they just keep that going and going and going, and then eventually it plateaus and they don't know what to do, right? This is how we keep our clients getting better and better and better results. Because what we do, we find the ones that perform well, make them together, right? And reproduce. So we get elements from this ad and this ad, and we make another ad set and make another campaign. We know what doesn't. This is how we find out what doesn't work and what works, so we can eliminate what doesn't work. And we already know they're not going to survive in the environment, and we get the bigger ones, the better ones, put them into our campaigns, so our percentages increase and we survive in the environment, and we can reproduce in Facebook's environment, right? And we're not gonna fall victim to natural selection. We are going to win natural selection, right? Yeah, and this allows us to track every metric down to the specific variable which it came from and which ad set, right? And then after this, we can create all sorts of hybrids and try and find the ultimate mega ad, which will make us insanely profitable using Facebook ads. And yeah, I just wanted to display how the best way to think about Facebook ads, right? You want to think of Facebook as this big power algorithm, right? And your ads are little organisms just floating around in the environment, and they're just trying to find a way to survive, right? And not all of them will survive, Some will die, some will win and reproduce, and they'll create a different thing, which will reproduce again, And yeah, that is all for this video. I hope you have a better understanding of how Facebook ads work and how to think about them. It's all about testing evenly and finding. It's all about testing everything evenly to have the same sample space so we can find the true winning ads and not use Facebook biases which will skew the data. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Get outside the sunshine and touch grass. All right, see you later.